Hey there, Mark Barrett here with Team Impact Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Kickboxing again. Was watching a video the other day about the long debate of whether you should train gi or no gi in Jiu-Jitsu, or if is one superior to the other. Should you do one more than the other? And I'm not really going to get into the arguments on that today necessarily. I think a balance of the two is important. Even though I've spent most of my career training no-gi, especially when I fought MMA, so that was kind of a bigger aspect of what I did. But I think there's an argument to be made for keeping a good balance in your training. But that conversation kind of led to the idea of belting and ranking. And I realized how much focus, especially students, put on getting belted. Kids are really focused on it, but adults as well. And then even some instructors. And so I started thinking, how many instructors out there, is that a big thing to them? Or is that, as to my fellow instructors, is ranking your students a big deal to you? Is it something that you keep as a priority, I guess? And as students, is that something that you prioritize, is getting belted in the ranking? I never really focused a lot on ranking in Jiu-Jitsu. Now, I grew up doing Taekwondo. I grew up doing a few other martial arts, and getting belted was a big deal, especially as a kid. I started when I was young, and I remember that. But as I got older, it became less and less and less of a priority to me. And when I got into Jiu-Jitsu, again, I did it for MMA. It was more for the function, right? It was just because there was people who could take me to the ground. I wanted to make sure I knew what to do. And so I used it as a tool, and I never really worried about what belt I was. I think that's why I was a purple belt for like 7 years. I just didn't care. But as I became, I'm a business owner. I've had this gym for about 30 years now, and I started teaching a jiu-jitsu program. I understood the value of needing to be a black belt, and so therefore continuing my journey and getting belted. But I wonder, does it really matter? Like when we do a lot of no-gi, especially back in the day, you didn't know what belt people were. You just rolled and you grappled, and if they could beat you or they could be effective with their techniques, that's what mattered. It didn't really matter what belt you were. Who cared? And half time you didn't know. And when I first started training, we didn't even belt each other, so we didn't know what belt we were, to be honest with you. But today it seems like a big focus, and I figure what are the opinions of you guys on how important that is? I don't find it that important, and it's made me be a little lazy about belting my students through the past, and some of them have complained about that I've not been as diligent about ranking my students like I should, and I've tried to get better about it, but at the same time I want to keep the integrity of what we teach, and I don't want to just be a belt factory. That's not good. I think to myself, what if we wore gis and we all just wore the same gi and the same belt, all wore white belts, or all wore gray belts, or we all wore black belts, or whatever, it doesn't matter, just the same belt, and then we just trained, and what I could do is what I do, and what you could do is what you do, and we learned, and you were just judged based on the effectiveness of what you could do. Not that you had 20 techniques and this guy only has 5, and so therefore he's a higher belt than you, but just he might have 5 techniques and he's just really effective with them, and he can be effective, he can control you, and they can submit you, and he does better than you with the 20 techniques that you know. I don't know. I just think that sometimes the ranking and the belting gets in people's way. And so as a business owner, again, I find the effectiveness of it as a motivating tool for students, but I also find it to be a hindrance in some ways. And so I just wanted your guys' comments and opinions on that. Do you train gi? If you do, how important is ranking to you? And if you don't train in a gi, do you still rank yourself? And if so, how does that work? And is it important to you, I guess? Comment below, let me know. I'd like to have some opinions on that. Again, from school owners and from students alike. Anyway, just thoughts for the day. Have a great day. Talk to y'all later. See you, bye.